Live now to Jonathan Schanzer, Vice President for Research with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, a Washington-based think tank that focuses on foreign policies, coming to us today from West Palm Beach, Florida. And Jonathan, what do you make of what the President has decided to do? 300 military advisors, increased recon, more equipment, no boots on the ground, though.
Well, I think the President is now realizing that his foreign policy in Iraq is not working out to his satisfaction. He had believed that we'd be able to simply pivot away from Iraq and not deal with the fallout. Of course, the rise of ISIS and its conquering of territory across Iraq has made that, obviously, has debunked that in many ways. What the President has done is taken, I think, half steps, perhaps positive ones, putting some advisors on the ground, increasing reconnaissance in order to better battle ISIS. But, of course, it won't be the United States battling ISIS. It will be the troops that we've trained in Iraq, and it's unclear whether they're fit for battle. After all, it was many of these fighters who shed their military gear and went running when ISIS first came into the country. So a lot of questions unanswered.
You know, you raise a great point there. The idea that these Iraqi divisions that are supposed to be, in theory, well-trained, they are well-armed, a lot of U.S. dollars poured in to these different divisions, these soldiers, to make them be able to sort of ostensibly handle security in their own country. They come up against sort of a ragtag bunch of a couple of thousand fighters with ISIS, and they melt away. Well, what's going on?
Well, look, that's exactly the question. The question was, were the Iraqis ready to take over? It was clear that there was frustration on the part of the U.S. public and some of its allies that it was time to get out of Iraq from our perspective. But from the perspective of Iraq being ready, for the troops to be trained, prepared for this kind of battle, prepared for the kind of political and sectarian tension that continues to exist inside Iraq, it was to me unclear from the get-go that this was the exact moment. And so I think that now they've been put to the test. They have failed to live up to that test. Nevertheless, we have committed ourselves to staying out of Iraq and providing support. And again, it's just unclear whether the support that the United States is going to provide will be enough to fend off the likes of ISIS.
Obviously, the White House, the President trying to say these military advisors are not the beginning of greater engagement. This is not a slippery slope. But as soon as you start to talk about hundreds of military advisors and the possibility of airstrikes and U.S. aircraft carriers in the Eastern Mediterranean, people start to get worried again about getting pulled back in. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, look, I think we're already seeing some nerves. The Turks have already said that they don't want strikes on targets inside Iraq. There are other countries in the region that are cheering for it because they don't have confidence in Maliki's government. They don't have confidence in Iraq as it stands now, and they think that the United States needs to be involved. Look, the bottom line is that there's really nothing that the United States can do right. We'll be condemned if we go in. We'll be condemned if we stay out. We'll be looked at as either feckless or reckless. And that's ultimately what the President is struggling with. Of course, I think compounding that is the fact that the guy has already received a Nobel Prize for his intentions to get out of Iraq, and that makes it a lot harder, I think, for the President to go back in.
Let's talk about airstrikes. I mean, the possibility of that. First of all, you've got to be very careful how you do this. You got to get the intelligence on the ground. You got to get the aerial surveillance as well to make sure that there are not innocent casualties. This doesn't end up backfiring. Is that likely?
Look, we don't know. To me, it looks like the President is saying that he's not interested. But then again, if you're providing reconnaissance to the Iraqis, then perhaps what we're doing is we're helping the Iraqis do the bombing and helping them select the sites. The real concern that I have right now is not that we'd be providing this assistance to the Iraqi military, but that perhaps we'd be sharing it with other actors in the region. And specifically, I'm referring to Iran. There was a note by John Kerry yesterday. He actually said this yesterday, that he was going to be providing information and sharing things with Iraq and with Iran, and that, of course, is extremely disconcerting to me.